In a small town, far from the glittering cities and shining skyscrapers, there lived a boy whose dreams were much larger than his circumstances. His name was Arjun. He was not born into privilege. His father worked as a daily wage laborer, and his mother stitched clothes in the neighborhood to add a few extra coins to the household income. Money was always short, but their home was full of love and the endless chatter of siblings who dreamt of better tomorrows. From an early age, Arjun was fascinated with computers. The first time he saw one was at a local shop where customers came to print documents. The glowing screen, the sound of typing, and the magic of the internet captured his heart. He would stand outside the glass window of the shop, watching the customers and the operator, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. But reality was cruel. A computer was a luxury far beyond his family's reach. They could barely afford daily meals, let alone something as expensive as a laptop. His school had one dusty computer in the corner of the library, but access to it was rare and limited. Still, Arjun's heart burned with a desire to learn technology, coding, and everything he could about the digital world. One evening, after returning from school, he sat on the porch and thought deeply. If he couldn't afford a laptop, did that mean he should give up on his dreams? No. He believed that if he wanted something badly enough, he had to find a way to make it happen. And that is when an unusual idea struck him. What if I build my own laptop? Of course, he had no parts, no wires, no screens, but he had something else: creativity. He found an old cardboard box lying in the corner of his house. With scissors, glue, and markers, he began to shape it into the form of a laptop. He carefully drew the keyboard, one key at a time. He cut out a rectangular piece to make a screen and pasted sheets of paper on it, sketching what looked like windows and icons. It looked funny to anyone else, but to Arjun, it was his treasure. The next day, he proudly carried his cardboard laptop to school. At first, he hid it in his bag, unsure of how others would react. But during the lunch break, he pulled it out and started practicing typing, pressing on the hand-drawn keys while reading notes he had copied from a borrowed book about computers. And then, the laughter began. "Hey, look at him!" one boy shouted. "He's playing with a toy laptop," another added, laughing so hard that tears came out of his eyes. "Does he really think that cardboard can teach him computers?" someone sneered. The entire group of boys surrounded him, pointing, mocking, and imitating his actions. Some even tried to snatch the cardboard laptop to tear it apart, but Arjun held it close to his chest, refusing to let them destroy what little he had. It wasn't just the boys in his class. Even some teachers gave him puzzled looks. "Arjun," one teacher said gently, "dreaming is good, but you need real tools to learn. This won't work." But Arjun refused to believe that. To him, the cardboard laptop was not a joke. It was his gateway to the world he wanted to enter. He practiced every day, memorizing the position of the keys, imagining lines of code running across the paper screen. He treated it as real, because in his heart, it was real. Still, the mocking didn't stop. Day after day, he faced laughter, taunts, and whispers. Students avoided sitting with him, afraid they would also be laughed at. Some even spread rumors that he had lost his mind. Who plays with cardboard and pretends to be a computer engineer? They mocked. At night, when everyone else slept, Arjun would sit by the dim light of a kerosene lamp, polishing his cardboard laptop, adding more details, making new updates. He would write programming codes in his notebook, copying them from library books, and then pretend to run them on his cardboard screen. He wasn't just playing. He was training his mind step by step to think like a programmer. Every insult he heard at school made him stronger. Every laugh he endured fueled his determination. He promised himself, "One day, this same cardboard laptop will be the reason people remember me. One day, They will regret mocking me." But at that moment, he was just a poor boy with a fake laptop, sitting alone under a flickering lamp, holding on to a dream that no one else could see. And so, the story began, with a boy, a cardboard laptop, and a world that refused to believe in him. Arjun's days were filled with laughter, but not the kind that warms the heart. It was the laughter of mockery, the laughter that stings and burns. Each morning he carried his torn bag to school, and inside it, tucked carefully as though it were the most precious treasure in the world, was his cardboard laptop. For everyone else, it was a joke, a silly toy, but for him, it was the only bridge between his reality and his dream. The world around him never understood. In the classroom, whenever he pulled out the cardboard laptop during breaks, his classmates erupted in cruel jokes. They would whisper, point, and laugh. Some boys would clap and cheer sarcastically, pretending he was some great CEO of a cardboard company. Others asked him if his laptop had Wi-Fi or if he could play games on it. They called it a toy. They called him crazy. Even some teachers shook their heads in pity, telling him softly that dreaming was good, but reality demanded real tools. And real tools required money, which he didn't have. But Arjun had something more powerful than money. He had faith. At home, when the noise of the world faded, he would place his cardboard laptop on the floor, sit cross-legged, and begin practicing. To anyone watching, it looked absurd. A boy tapping keys drawn in marker on a piece of cardboard, staring at a paper screen with scribbled windows and icons. But inside Arjun's mind, it was alive. He had memorized the keyboard layout from the few computer books in his school library, so when his fingers moved, he knew exactly which letter he was pressing. He wrote programming codes into his notebook, copying examples from the dusty books. He borrowed, and then he imagined running those codes on his paper screen. When he wrote the famous line, "Print Hello World," and looked at the blank cardboard screen, he smiled as if he could see the words glowing back at him. His siblings laughed too, though theirs was innocent. They would peek over his shoulder and giggle, saying, "Bye, you're pretending again." His father was harsher. After long days of labor, he wanted his son to do something practical, something that could bring money home. "Why waste your time on this toy?" he asked one evening. "You should be helping me at work." But his mother, who barely understood computers at all, never once told him to stop. She would quietly watch him, sewing clothes by the lamp, and say softly, "If this makes your heart happy, keep going. One day maybe it will bring us good fortune." Those words became his anchor. The library became his second home. Though it was small and filled mostly with old books, it held treasures that no one else cared for. Arjun borrowed every computer science book he could find. He copied entire chapters into his notebooks, sometimes without fully understanding what he wrote, but he believed that if he repeated the words enough times, they would eventually make sense. His notebooks became his programs, his codes, his projects. Each page was filled with endless lines of handwritten syntax, mistakes, corrections, and diagrams of computers he had never touched. The cardboard laptop became more than a tool. It became his teacher. He set routines for himself, pretending he was in a real training course. He timed his typing exercises, created imaginary assignments, even drew websites and calculators on paper, pretending he was designing them. Though others saw a child lost in play, he was quietly building the mental reflexes of a programmer. Still, the mocking grew louder. Some boys went further, trying to snatch the laptop from him just to tear it apart. He clutched it tightly, refusing to let anyone destroy the only thing he had. The cruelty hardened him. Every insult became fuel. Every laugh made his resolve stronger. He whispered to himself, "One day, this same cardboard laptop will make them remember me." Then, something unexpected happened. A librarian, who had often noticed him sitting for hours in a corner with books and notebooks, finally asked him about his strange obsession. At first, he hesitated. People always laughed when they saw his laptop, but when he showed her, instead of laughing, she looked at it with gentle curiosity. "You remind me of inventors," she said. "They began with nothing but imagination. You have the same fire." Her words filled Arjun with warmth he had never felt before. Someone believed in him. Moved by his dedication, she gave him a small chance. She allowed him to use the library's single computer for 30 minutes after school each day. To most students, half an hour on a computer was nothing. To Arjun, it was a gift from heaven. The first time he sat in front of the glowing monitor, his heart pounded. His fingers trembled as they hovered over the real keyboard. But the moment he began typing, the librarian's eyes widened. Arjun's fingers moved quickly, confidently, as if they already knew the path. The months of pressing cardboard keys had trained his muscle memory. Where other beginners hunted for letters, he typed smoothly, as if he had always owned a computer. That half hour became the most important time of his day. He prepared in advance, writing codes and exercises in his notebook at home, then testing them the moment he sat at the library computer. He refused to waste a second. While others clicked aimlessly, he practiced programs, solved problems, and taught himself step by step. The librarian sometimes stood behind him, astonished at how much a boy with no resources could learn in so little time. Outside, his classmates still mocked him. They didn't see the progress he was making in those precious 30 minutes. They still joked about his cardboard Wi-Fi and his cardboard mouse, but inside, Arjun knew something they didn't. He knew that his dream was slowly taking shape. He had started with nothing but cardboard and imagination, and now he was teaching himself real skills, skills that could one day change his life. Every evening, as he left the library and walked home under the dim streetlights, he carried two things in his bag: his worn-out cardboard laptop and his burning determination. One was fragile, easily torn by anyone's hand. The other was unbreakable, protected deep inside his heart, and together they carried him forward. Years passed, but Arjun never let go of his dream. From those 30 minutes on the library computer, he built himself into something no one expected. Each day he arrived with a notebook filled with codes, problems, and ideas, and each day he tested them patiently. The librarian often stood by, amazed at his dedication. He was not just learning, he was growing into someone who thought like an engineer, someone who believed that knowledge could break through every wall of poverty. The cardboard laptop, now old and worn, still stayed with him. It was no longer just a toy. It was a reminder of where he started, a symbol of the ridicule he endured and the fire that kept him going. Eventually, Arjun finished school. While many of his classmates pursued safe jobs or gave up their studies, he searched for opportunities to sharpen his skills. He didn't have money for a university degree, but he had something more valuable: self-taught knowledge. He found small community workshops where volunteers taught programming. Sometimes he walked for miles to attend free seminars. He borrowed books, watched lessons in cyber cafes with the little money he saved, and kept practicing until his codes worked, without error. There were nights when his stomach was empty but his notebook was full. Hunger became an old companion, but so did hope. He began freelancing, helping people fix small computer issues, designing simple websites for local shops, and taking on tiny coding tasks he found online. Each job, no matter how small, was proof that the boy who once typed on cardboard keys was becoming a real programmer. Some of his old classmates, the same ones who laughed at him, began to notice. They were surprised when they saw him working late at the library, surprised when they heard about his projects. Still, many dismissed him. They thought, he'll never go far without money or a degree. But Arjun never wasted energy proving them wrong. He only focused on proving himself right. Then came the day that changed everything. A technology company, a global giant, announced an open competition for young programmers. Anyone, regardless of background, could apply. The challenge was simple: solve a series of complex coding problems under strict time limits. Thousands of young people from across the country applied. Many came from top universities, armed with laptops, resources, and professional training. Arjun had none of that. But he had years of persistence, practice, and resilience. When he saw the announcement, his heart raced. This was the chance he had been waiting for, the moment to show the world what a poor boy with cardboard dreams could do. He applied without hesitation. For weeks, he prepared day and night, solving practice problems, writing and rewriting codes, and training himself to stay calm under pressure. He still didn't own a laptop, so he borrowed time at the library computer, sometimes staying until the last minute before closing. He carried his cardboard laptop with him during those late night walks home, still pressing its fake keys to keep his fingers sharp. To others, it looked silly. To him, it was survival. The competition day arrived. In a large hall filled with young coders, the atmosphere was electric. Rows of glowing laptops clicked with furious speed. Some contestants wore branded headphones. Some had mentors guiding them, and others whispered strategies. Arjun sat quietly at his station, a borrowed shirt on his back, and nothing but determination in his heart. When the timer began, he closed his eyes for a brief second and remembered the nights under the kerosene lamp, the laughter of his classmates, the gentle encouragement of his mother, and the cardboard laptop that had started it all. Then he began, typing. Hours passed, and one by one, contestants gave up or struggled with errors. But Arjun's fingers moved steadily, his mind calm. The years of typing on cardboard keys, of imagining code on a paper screen, had built his focus. To him, this was not new. This was just another practice session, another night at the library. His solutions were clean, efficient, and elegant. When the judges announced the results, a hush fell across the room. Against all odds, Arjun had not only passed, he had outperformed nearly everyone. He was among the top scorers in the entire competition. The news spread quickly. The boy with no degree, no laptop, and no money had beaten students from prestigious universities. His story reached the ears of the tech giant itself. They were intrigued by his performance, but even more by his background. When they interviewed him, he spoke not with arrogance, but with humility. He told them about the cardboard laptop, about the library, about how imagination had been his only tool when the world gave him none. The interviewers, seasoned engineers themselves, were left speechless. They had never heard such a story of resilience and creativity. Within weeks, Arjun received an offer letter. He had been hired by the very tech giant he once only dreamed of. His family cried tears of joy when he showed them the letter. His mother hugged him tightly, whispering, "I told you one day this would bring us fortune." His father, once skeptical, stood silently with moist eyes, realizing his son had done something extraordinary. News traveled back to his old school. The same classmates who once mocked him now spoke his name with admiration. Some even apologized. Others, though proud, were quietly ashamed, remembering how they had laughed at him. The boy they once called crazy was now a symbol of hope. On his first day at the tech giant's headquarters, Arjun carried a small bag with him. Inside, apart from his official documents and essentials, was the same old cardboard laptop. Worn, faded, its edges bent and fragile, but still intact. When his colleagues asked him why he carried it, he smiled and said, "This is where it all began. This is proof that dreams don't need wealth to start. They only need belief." In the end, the world finally saw him not as the boy with a toy, but as a man who turned imagination into reality. His story traveled far and wide, inspiring countless children who thought poverty meant the end of their dreams. He became a living example that determination can turn cardboard into opportunity and laughter into applause. And so, the boy who was once mocked for carrying a cardboard laptop walked proudly through the doors of a tech giant, not as a poor dreamer anymore, but as a professional, a creator, and a symbol of what happens when you never give up.